A Dream Story. Muro Saisei. Once upon a time, there was a samurai town called Nagamachi in the castle town of Kaga, which had 1,000,000 koku of rice. The houses were surrounded by trees, making the town dark and lonely even in the daytime. There was a samurai called Tamon who lived there. One night, he came home late from playing with a friend along the riverbank. Unlike now, there was only a faint light shining from the high windows of the samurai town, and the road was simply covered in lacquer-like darkness. Tamon felt the loneliness of late autumn approaching the sound of the river rapids, but more than that, he had been walking silently, wondering about the young woman walking in front of him, floating in the darkness. He thought it was strange that a young woman was walking alone at this time, or perhaps he thought there was something suspicious about her, so he quietly called out to her from behind. "Where are you going at this time, woman?" However, upon hearing the voice, the woman suddenly turned towards him, with a surprised look on her face, and started walking much faster than before. Tamon had thought that she would at least reply if she was not suspicious, but his guess was wrong, and the thought that she was suspicious remained in Tamon's mind even more. Tamon called out to her again, however. "Tell me how to get to Nagamachi Sambancho." However, this time the woman had clearly fled, and turned left along the riverbank, and was about to turn around the corner of Chikudo with its dark chestnut trees, which was an alleyway leading to Tamon's mansion, so Tamon quickly put his hand on the woman's shoulder and, putting his strength into it, tried to stop her. "Wait." But the woman said, in a low, but sharp, animal-like voice, "No." And then she ran scurrying to the opposite side, to a dark stone wall on the riverbank, and by the time Tamon stood on top of it, she was gone. Thinking about this, Tamon thought the woman was strange, and returned to the front of his house. Tamon's house was on the corner of an alley, and the only thing he could hear was the cries of crickets from the edge of the ditch, as the light from the gatekeeper's window faintly bathed the cold autumn night. Even for a warrior like Tamon, at that moment he felt something special, something out of season, a strange loneliness, and as he was about to go towards the gatekeeper, he was startled to see a hazy shadow standing beneath the light. In the next moment, he realized that the person standing there was clearly the woman from earlier, and although he had thought the same thing earlier, it seemed familiar to him, and now it felt new. "What are you doing? Isn't this my mansion?" Tamon said as he approached her, and the woman spun around as quickly as a top, then slipped through the gate. Tamon thought to himself, "Oh no." According to the rules of the time, it was shameful for a samurai to be thought of as a monster or something like that living within a mansion, so Tamon immediately crawled through the gate. The gatekeeper was polishing his sword against a whetstone in the shadow of a lantern. He had a sleepy look on his face as if nothing had happened. "I'm sure the woman just passed through the gate, didn't you see her?" "No, no such thing would crawl in." The gatekeeper replied, and looked back at the master with a puzzled look on his face. She had certainly crawled in. "I saw it," said Tamon, and crept into the mansion, but after a while he caught a glimpse of a shadow on the veranda of the bedroom. One of the shutters had been drawn back, and a dark mouth opened up. "Wait, woman," Tamon said, and slashed the woman's shoulder with a single stroke, and tried to scare her away again with the return sword, but the woman collapsed and rolled under the veranda, and she was nowhere to be seen. Tamon looked through the trees in the garden and even into the thick grass, but there was nothing suspicious to be seen. "But this woman is familiar. I've seen her somewhere before." Tamon's mind cleared as he thought this, and he sat motionless in the shadow of the lantern. If she was a real human, he thought, she wouldn't have been able to escape so easily, and if she was suspicious, he had to hunt her down no matter what. He looked around the darkness of the garden, but there was only darkness and the chill of the night, and not even the sound of wind rustling the leaves. Tamon felt something more desolate than ever before in his heart, and it seemed to grow stronger with every passing moment. Tamon shivered. It was a shivering that would be shameful for a samurai, but Tamon continued to do it over and over again. Tamon stood up and looked around every room in the mansion, but there was no sign of a woman anywhere. Tamon suddenly went to the kitchen, where he found a maid named Ohagi lying unconscious on the floor. Her face was pale and she was gasping for breath. "What's wrong? Be careful," Tamon said, giving Ohagi some water and picking her up, but after a while she finally regained consciousness and looked at Tamon's face. Tamon thought that the face looked very similar to the woman's from earlier. "Are you feeling better?" When Tamon said this, the woman suddenly let out a startled cry and tried to run away. Tamon wondered why the woman, who had lived here for many years, was looking at his face in fear, and, "Why do you look at me and try to run away? Haven't you been in my house for a long time?" The woman looked at Tamon's face more intently, and with eyes as if she had just woken up from a dream, she said with a look of relief, "The truth is, when I returned from an errand a while ago, I met a samurai on the way. He cut me down as I was trying to sneak through the gate and out onto the veranda. Please look, there is blood oozing out here." Ohagi showed the wound on her shoulder with a painful look on her face and breathed with difficulty. Tamon felt like he was breaking out in a cold sweat. "So it was you. In any case, I thought it was strange that you were out so late that night." But Ohagi looked calm and said this time, "That was the dream I had been having. I haven't been out even once since it got dark. You could have asked the gatekeeper and he would have found out. But I'm really puzzled by the fact that my shoulder is bleeding so much and that the master found me halfway through." Tamon knew for sure that Ohagi was a maid, but she said she had a dream. The gatekeeper also said that Ohagi hadn't gone out. Tamon thought there was something strange going on, but he couldn't figure out what it was. He thought that the maid might be possessed by something, but he couldn't find out right away. Tamon kept a close eye on the maid, and she never mentioned anything about that night. Even though Tamon thought that it was possible to go out while dreaming, he was unable to figure out Ohagi's true identity. After that, Ohagi took her leave and left. This strange story has remained until now, but I don't really understand it. Going out in a dream is now called sleepwalking, but this story doesn't tell me to what extent it is sleepwalking. I think it's best to leave things we don't understand as they are, so I'll leave it as it is.